Hi there, it's Bob and
It's Ramon.
on Zoom for you today because we can't be there physically together.
We cannot.
We're doing a Zoom chat for you, following up on some bristles that we've stroked over the last couple of months on certain things. Ramon, what do you think?
Yeah, so the Guitarist magazine, which is an amazing British guitar magazine, which everyone will know, obviously, they've kind of commissioned Tony Bacon to write the full kind of history of Eric Clapton's Beano guitar, Les Paul, quite possibly the most famous and quite possibly the most valuable Les Paul ever made, with the exception to Paul McCartney's left-handed guitar. But anyway, we really, Bob and I both really love Tony Bacon's article, and we want to say big kudos to Tony for putting that together. A couple of little things we may differ with him on his article, which we're going to go into, but overall, there's one thing that we got wrong, which Tony kind of has put the record straight. So it's a kind of, helping each other out to find the real history of this guitar.
We're all digging, aren't we?
Yeah, can we start, Bob? Just give us a scenario, because people might not know this, but you were actually there pretty much in 67, 68, 69. You were around that place?
So I think just a little intro to this. This is all about, this world is a world full of stories where you have guitars that have high value, let alone the value of these kind of guitars, celebrity, iconic guitars. A lot of money changing hands, and they get lots of stories attached very quickly. And you have to be terribly careful and dismantle the stories, the first-hand stories from the urban myths and apocryphal stories. So I'm not quite old enough to have been around. Pity.
Sorry, Bob, I didn't want to put
for the early 60s London scene. I kind of got interested. I was 13 years old in 1968. So I got into guitar at that age, and so I was really around Denmark Street. By 1969, I was hanging around there like any other little, teenage acolyte of the stars, drooling over guitars I couldn't even imagine affording and all the rest of it. So that's my background. So I wasn't around, for example, when we come to talk about Lou Davis's shop in Charing Cross Road, I wasn't around for that, but I was around for when it became the Selmer shop. And I went into Selmer's pretty much every day. I went down Denmark Street, which was pretty much every other day. And I bought my first Gibson in Selmer's.
So, Bob, what we're saying, because Lou Davis shop, which was going around 1960, 1961 and selling guitars. I'm going to flash up now an advert of a summer sale of guitars and amplifiers at Lou Davis shop from 1961. They were selling guitars such as a Triumph guitar with a pickup, which was £8 and 10 shillings. They were selling a Broadway Electric, which was 15 guineas. Burns Well Fenton model solid, which was 26 guineas. And for 42 guineas, you could get a Grimshaw semi-solid electric blonde
Eddie
guitar.
Grimshaw from Manchester. Yeah.
That's right. And then you got a Dallas 12 to 15 watt amplifier with tremolo, brand new for 22 guineas.
Probably bloody fantastic sounding out now. Oh.
Yeah. So we're going to put this. So Lou Davis's shop was going at the same time. They overlapped with Selmer's. Selmer's would sell the posh guitars, and Lou Davis maybe not so posh.
The history of the area. So Denmark Street itself was called Tin Pan Alley because in the offices above all the shops were where all the music publishers and music agents and stuff hung out. And it was named after the American street of the same name, Tin Pan Alley. But Denmark Street was just one bit of it. Then you had Tottenham Court Road, you had Shaftesbury Avenue, and there were music shops all around there. Now, in the 20s and 30s, there would have been horn shops and piano shops and violin shops and double bass shops and accordion shops, yeah? But then, remember our guitar boom didn't arrive. The Yanks had a major boom in guitars going on in the mid to late 50s because there were import controls and stuff like that, and because pop music took a little longer to really kick off over here. Our boom didn't start till about 60 or 61, but when it boomed, it really boomed. And so you would have seen a lot of change down Denmark Street, Tottenham Court Road, Charing Cross Road, Shaftesbury Avenue around that time. And the first change you would have seen is that many of the horn shops would have started dealing in guitars as well. And that's probably what would happen with Lou What's-It and all of that. And then gradually the shops changed hands and evolved so that, you know, their larger of their two shops, the one at 114, 116 Charing Cross Road, became the Selma store. And of course, Selma had the import license or the distributorship or whatever you called it in those days for Gibson in the UK.
So let me just give you a bit of a background about the other shop, the smaller shop. So as well as the famous 114 to 116 Charing Cross Road premises, yep, Selma also owned the Lou Davis shop near the corner of Denmark Street. This was purely for retailing guitars. It was a great hangout for session musicians. Now, a few of the people that used to work in there were Jerry Donahue,
yep,
John Bell,
yep,
who was a brilliant clarinetist, Jack Hawkins, an ex-army bandsman, Paul Kossoff,
yeah,
Jack Moore, Colin Faulkner, and also there's another guy who
you forgot John McLaughlin.
Yes, but I think he may have been working in the larger shop. I'm not sure.
Yeah, could be.
Now, this is where we're going to have a little bit of a disagreement with Tony Bacon. Now, Tony Bacon suggests that Ray Smith was the guy that sold Eric Clapton the famous Beano Les Paul, and we've had access to a good source in the form of Gordon Horton, Sconehead. And Gordon tells us that it was actually Jimmy Nolan at the Selma 114 to 116 Charing Cross Road premises. That was where Jimmy Nolan sold Eric Clapton his Beano Burst, right, and not as Tony Bacon says by Ray Smith in Lou Davis' shop.
Okay, well, I mean, it seems to me that whatever the shop was called, it was under common ownership at the time. There was probably a load of traffic between the two shops. I mean, you're talking about, they're only 30 paces apart. The Selma shop I know well because I used to go there as a kid and I bought my first Gibson there. The other shop I used to go past. By the time I was going there, it was probably called the Rock Shop or something. It's a small shop. It was a bit down on its heels at that time. It's never been a really, you know, some guitar stores are really must go tos, and other ones are the ones that you poke your head in the window while you're passing by. Mm-hmm. And it was much more one of those. And now it's a rather sad location because it's right adjacent to the new property development there. It's all fenced off with pedestrian corrals and stuff. And I think it's a small convenience store, and it's probably not doing terribly well because it's in a dead end rather than on a pedestrian thoroughfare. But because there's so much redevelopment going on. But that's the store.
That's the story. So we're gonna fast forward now. Another great thing about this magazine article is these new photos that have suddenly appeared, which we're going to flash up now. And Bob, you own a 1958 Les Paul, which is to the left.
I keep getting my left and right wrong. So because I'm on green screen, guys. So I'm not actually pointing at a guitar. I'm pointing at a picture of my guitars. That's my 1958 Burst.
Now, what color would you describe that as?
So I would call this a T Burst. Let me get out of the way. This is a T Burst.
And if we're looking at the photos, do you think it's similar in color to the photos?
To the pictures in the Guitarist magazine?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is. But the only thing that worries me is that those pictures are quite washed out. So if you look at the other things in the pictures, they're all a bit bleached. So I would say that the likelihood is the guitar that Eric Clapton is playing in that photograph is probably redder and yellower than the one I'm trying to get out of the way of here.
Now, would that donate it as a, like the classic 1960 tomato soup, the red that doesn't fade in the light? Would you say it was kind of pre that?
Well, so all these guitars started as red and yellow sunbursts, but the red dye for the first 2 years was unstable, and it had a distinct tendency to fade in natural light, particularly in sunlight. Many of these guitars spent rather too long in the day sitting in guitar store windows.
And so they bleached. And remember, Eric Clapton took his Les Paul to Greece, didn't he?
He did, but I mean, that might have been later, but who knows? But I mean, there's a lot of sunshine in Greece. Anyway, suffice to say that the 1958s and the 59s were definitely prone to fade unless they were kept, in the dark in their cases. In sometime in 1960, not right at the beginning, they changed the red dye, and so most 1960s not only have things like a skinny neck, but they also have they're much redder, and they're called tomato soup or even clown bursts. But there are examples of 60s. A friend of mine has a beautiful 60, quite flamey. It's gone completely lemon yellow, so it's yellower than the yellow middle of mine, and so there's an enormous variation in colour. Clapton's the graduation of colour on the one in that photograph of Clapton's is very similar to mine. It's just, I think, because of the general fade in the rest of the picture, I think the whole thing is probably redder and yellower. It's pretty well documented that it was a 60, which does corroborate. And the other thing is, I think I've read about him talking somewhere. I don't know how he described it, but he certainly didn't use any of the modern phrases like baseball bat neck or anything. I think he's described it as quite slim.
Yeah, well, one of the major sort of indications that it was a 60s was that he actually now owns a 1960 Les Paul, and he says that was very similar to the one he had.
Okay. And the other thing is, if you go back to the recorded sound, I know, everybody's agonized over this for millennia about how they got the recorded sound and all the rest of it. But there's no doubt that not only is the player on fire, but that guitar's quite a hot guitar, even if you offset for the fact that it's a dimed Marshall, and even if you get involved in the argument that it might or might not have had some kind of booster in front of it, the guitar itself, once you've played a few of these things, you can kind of sense a hot one. My friend's from 60 is a hot one. My one, as a 58 here, is rather more well behaved. It's a fantastic sounding guitar, but it's not quite as fiery. Mm-hmm. They seem to get a little louder and a little hotter over the years, as far as I can tell, as a generalization.
So overall, I mean, I think, so we're still going with the fact that these photos, they don't really tell us anything new, that it was a 58 or 59. We're still on track for it being a 1960 Les Paul.
I think what they do, nobody's going to give us the answer unless we can actually find somebody who can actually put their hand on their heart and say, I was there in the room. I don't know. I was there. I took a brass rubbing of the serial number, or I was in the shop when he bought it, or something like that. Then all we're doing is using all this information to narrow down on the most likely and the least unlikely things around the guitar.
Wow. So
it's detective work.
Okay. So let's just say this is another thing. This is something that we, Bob and I, sometimes disagree on. I personally think it's the most expensive guitar ever. It's a holy grail. It is the most important guitar ever. It got more people started, including myself, probably Bob as well. I think it's the most, if it was found, this would be the most expensive guitar ever. However, Bob, you disagree. You think it's another guitar, right?
Well, I certainly think you're very close to being right. I mean, if you think about it, if Gilmour's Strat can go for several $1 million, and everybody's pretty roundly agreed, there's nothing particularly special about that guitar except who's played it and where it's been, right?
Yeah.
And it's got all kinds of things done to it as well, right? So if you think that can go for that much money, if you think of some of the other guitars that have changed hands for big money, there's no doubt you're talking about big bucks here. I don't know, 5 mil, plus or minus. But my personal favorite, and actually I started thinking this when I read Tony Bacon's book, The $1 Million Les Paul, or The $1 Million Guitar. As he talks about, the probability of there being one for sale eventually is $1 million. And my personal favorite for the absolute highest ticket guitar, if and when it ever comes up for sale, would be Paul McCartney's I think it's a 58. It's left-handed. It's in good condition. And so it's got, first of all, there used to be known, there were 4 left-handed documented Sunburst Les Pauls. A 5th was discovered last year. So there are currently 5 known. And they've surfaced over the last 60 years.
So to cut long story short.
So they're very rare, and it's left-handed, and it's McCartney, and McCartney's a Beatle. And in my money, I know in guitar world, Clapton is God, but I think in the wider world of fandom, I think a Beatle trumps anything, even Sinatra. And his banjo isn't up for sale.
Let's just say it's like having 2 cheeks of the same backside, yeah?
You have to get that into every video. But it'll be worth a vast amount of money if it's ever found.
Wow.
The problem is, Though I don't think it ever will be found, in the sense that if something does appear that looks more and more likely to be it, it's no one's going to be certain. And this is the problem. This is what I said at the head about stories.
Okay, so let me come in here, because look, with the Guitarist magazine, and with, because this is something that I wanted to say, and Bob and I have made these cool documentaries recently, and I think that I don't know if this is true, but maybe it kind of made the Guitarist magazine suddenly put out this article with Tony Bacon, because maybe Tony Bacon had watched our documentaries and wanted to address a few facts that he thought we got wrong, and which is fair enough.
Fair play.
Tony Bacon is the man.
Yeah.
But look, we've uncovered some new information, as in Jimmy Nolan being the person to sell Eric Clapton the guitar rather than Ray Smith in the other shop. And we've also uncovered a few other bits. We've uncovered a new guitar that came in, a new Les Paul that nobody knew about. We've uncovered a few things, and obviously the Guitarist magazine article has uncovered some better quality color photos. So I think, you can never say what's going to happen next week. There could be some more information coming out. And, I can't mention any names, but the people that I know, I think, I haven't told you this, Bob, but you know them as well. And these people have told me that the Beano Les Paul apparently is still in London. What do you think about that?
Well, I'd love to meet it. I tell you that. I'd love to meet it. I mean, I'd love to meet it.
I don't know where it is exactly.
I think it's going to be a fantastic guitar, and of course, it's got, it has the guitar itself. To your point, I agree with you in the sense that guitar carries more guitar history on it than pretty much the rest of the world in combination. It's really important. Yeah,
it is. Okay then, guys, so we're going to wrap this up, because we don't want to keep you yapping without playing a guitar. This is just a talking video. We should be playing, Bob and I, but we're not because of Zoom and all this stuff, but we will be on the next video. So I think that's over now, isn't it, Bob?
I just want to say one more thing. I want to do a quick promo for what I think is probably going to be called the March issue of the Guitar magazine, which features some of my collection. And I've seen some of the early photographs, and the photographs are just gorgeous. The photographer who shot them, she is a very talented guitar photographer indeed. So shout out to Eleanor Jane there. But I'm looking forward to that, because I haven't seen the finished product yet. And we will continue. We continue to post things both as ourselves, that is each other, and as the guitar show. And actually, there's quite a few going up at the moment. So do keep your eyes peeled. We're producing lots of content. In the meantime, all respect due, I think, to Tony Bacon and all his sources, because he's well connected and he knows what he's doing here. We're just adding to the foam in the paddling pool with our own researches and complementing what he's doing. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I think Tony Bacon, he's a big daddy. He's been doing, we all own his books. He's been doing it a long time, so we're not trying to steal his throne here. Yeah. But we're just kind of like we're amateur investigative historians trying to find a little bit more information.
Absolutely. And from a starting point of pure love for the music that was produced on this legendary instrument. Hey.
Absolutely. So I think we're going to draw a line under the Beano guitar now. I think this is the last video we're going to make on the Beano, unless we find something new out.
Well, unless we discuss, favorite things done on guitars over time. If we did that, I dare say it'll get dredged up again, and entirely rightly too. But apart from that,
the next video, guys, the next Bob and Ramon episode is going to all be about our most favorite live guitar solos in the last 3-4 years. So maybe you guys can think about your favorite solos that have been performed live on YouTube. Just live solos that have been captured on YouTube. Let us know if you've got any favorites, and we can check them out. And that's going to be the next Bob and Ramon show.
So for now, thanks for joining us, and it's goodbye from
me, and it's goodbye from
him. Bye-bye.
Take care. God bless, guys.